The public hearing by the chairperson of the subcommittee to reveal the proposed rules and regulations of the Joaquin Casey Concepcion Compassionate Cannabis Use Act of 2013 is now called to order. It is about 6:07 this evening. For the record, and in accordance with 5 GCA Chapter 8, subsection 8107, notices were out via email to all senators and to all main media broadcasting outlets on Tuesday, May 17th, which would adhere to 5 notice, and the second notice was on May 20th of 2016, which adhered to the 48-hour notices. I will also note for the record that the media has continued to send out public notices that these hearings would be coming up. We are here to discuss your thoughts and concerns of the current rules and regulations as drafted today. And I would like to stress again that we are here to take feedback and not to debate. I ask the testimonies shared this evening on the record remain as focused as possible on the rules and regulations before us today. I want to thank you all for those who have come out to share their concerns, and these comments will be very, very informative. Again, it's been a long time coming, and I'm certain that members of the team from my office and to the team from Public Health and the legal minds of the Attorney General's office wanted to make sure that we built this program right from the beginning. And we have been committed to making the medicinal marijuana program safe, accessible, and affordable. This hasn't been an easy process, but we're making headway. I want to say communities throughout the nation have been experiencing many of the same hiccups we are now. They have built programs that suit their populations, and with your help, ladies and gentlemen, I know we can build a program that fits the needs of our island community. Ladies and gentlemen, the rules and regulations before us today have been drafted by the team at the Department of Public Health and Social Services, and they have been reviewed and approved by the Office of the Attorney General. Tonight's discussion represents the open door of collaboration, and I know that we have many kinks to iron out moving forward, but this is the next step in the process prescribed by our government. And I'm extremely grateful for your patience, your concern, and your participation in this effort to serve our people and improve the way we care for our sick and those who need it the most. And with that, I welcome all of you here again tonight. I must take the time now to thank the Mayor of Santa Rita, Mayor Del Alvarez, and all the management and staff who helped us bring this public hearing to you. I was informed that Senator Del Alvarez will make it here this evening. His staff is in the back, and I want to thank him. I understand a couple of NPC members are also here. So thank them as well for being here this evening. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that there will be one more opportunity to speak on this matter if they cannot make it here tonight. The proceedings and the presentation of tonight, if I could just acknowledge the presence of Mayor Del Alvarez, who's here, with Douglas for giving us the opportunity of your NPC members to meet in this Senior Citizen Center tonight. Thank you, sir. As I said earlier, ladies and gentlemen, in addition, there will be one more opportunity to speak on this matter. Those who cannot make it tonight, these proceedings are being pre-recorded from the legislative branch. They will be rebroadcasted, but it's not going on live right now. We don't have the capability at this time to stream. So, but it is being pre-recorded. Next week, Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, on June 7th, next week, Tuesday on June 7th, at 6 p.m. in the evening, we will have our public hearing, our final public hearing roundtable discussion at the Guam Legislature's public hearing room. I will share with everyone, ladies and gentlemen, that everyone's input is very, very important. I want every voice to be heard on this matter. So again, if you have family and friends who did not make it, please invite them, your neighbors or co-workers, to review the current rules and regulations and attend the next meeting. I will note also for the record that the Department of Public Health and Social Services has shared with us that they will attempt to make it to the public hearing roundtable discussion next week, Tuesday, June 7th. If your family or friends or co-workers could not make it, but still wish to make testimony, to present testimony, they can do so by doing written testimonies, and they can be submitted to the office of Senator Tina Munoz Barnes, 155 Hessler Place, Acadiana, Guam, 96910. They can do it the old-fashioned way by fax, 472-3400, or they can email us at senator@tinamuniobarnes.com. If anyone in this room tonight, or anyone who's listening, who will be listening, and have any questions, they can contact our office at 472-3455-56. My office manager is Janine Cordero, and Alan Cepeda and Natalie Canato are our site policy writers that will take all written facts, and even if they call our office if they have any increase to that effect. With that being said, before we open the floor this evening, I'd like to once again say that we focus on the rules and regulations only. I also ask that we give all those sharing their testimonies this evening the utmost respect. I know that differing opinions may arise this evening, but again, I will say everyone will be heard. We will first yield to those who haven't spoken yet at the hearing. There are sign-up sheets here. I have Janine and Alan up here in the front. To my right, your left, if anyone else wishes to speak, or at least for the record, sign in if you don't want to speak, but just note your presence here tonight also. If you are reading your testimony this evening, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to help us assist the committee in the transcription process and provide us with a written copy. If you can provide your written copy, if you have a prepared one, to our staff so that we can help in the transcription thereof. We'd like to report these hearings out as quickly as possible. We have one more hearing, and it's a lot of transcribing to do. So anything you give us in hard copy will help our committee out. Again, I'm Dr. Nasitzus Masi, and I'd like to also take this time to thank my colleague, Majority Leader Senator Rory Ruspicio, for literally taking the time to come out with us, especially during our very, very busy schedules. I do have a couple of sheets up here, and I was asked if Mr. Tony Siswico had something to say. I know he spoke at the first meeting, but he said he'd like to share a few words. I'll call him up to the table. I do have Leilani Paredo. If they want to present oral testimony, you can come up. John Uggan, you just here to support, or Kim Orsini, Andrea Pellicani, Franklin Espinoza, do you want Uncle Franklin? You can come up, Uncle Franklin. Tony, please have a seat up here. You'll go. Do you have your statement with you?
I am going to speak in
Tomorrow? Okay. That's awesome. But for the record, I ask that you speak and state your name for the record into the microphone. Try and speak into the microphone so that the recording can pick it up, and where you're from. And if you support the efforts or not. Consigue, Mr. Siswico. Apa?
Si Zeus Marcy Center, si Zeus Marcy, Hamjun ni Mangai Winnie, Hamjun ni Iki Mene importante na hingo esti para binsangan. Wahu malangho. Ichinotu dyslexico, bipolar, another loki post-traumatic disorder. Cristiane Partino. Esta 8 semana, 16 anos, megay tempo ni esti cedro ulu, megay bay, dihami ni man masasapit, sesuman matsud, lolengnya si Jus na kimatsud na tau-tau, megay boy na mas molik kan mamakiliha da sa mas medgut esti tau-tau ni simia matsud da mamakilu da mamukat puno waha mas problema. I problema ni deliko an mamangentus esti i tau-tau hamdu sesu insangan siya megay kwentus ni atutut man matututan ni esti icet nubulu lo megay boy na taza haka sinya binteku binaksepta binpamamakilwa sa gulman konkomento sa masawan hao na kaduku hao lo timang kadukuan waha cet nun mami timang lagu tu ni esti na cenu lo anayu si Zeus. Ako benjoki minganya hamju kini waku molenga be pamakilu da be kumuka. Kaitu papu kini para bisa nganyam zu na disti i size na anyu ututun Lumako halum ihali alichongku and panabay na hagen marijuana gi amon as na naum ni tradisyon na amon tomorrow. Kada utako halum i marijuana gi amon na naum o paisin and munadan agimi hakasin nitenya. I-primer pinina aluk isaki ianku na leknya nina maulik sinintenya nina maimpi isinintenya tau-taunya nina relax nina kapma ikurasonnya nina kapma iinasonnya. Cuka esta munada pumoka apa sinau dalu bel para kusina dabe atili ipegun dabe namai pi kadu cuka esta bumoka sa boka dalu sa anagimi ni amun ni manadi marijuana ni na nalang talu da sesu sinanaw tipo chacha bumoka na waha na tia hasuha bumoka wana cuka mangi boka tiu boka sa timatu tempu ti munalan lo gagana gimi ni amun ni na nalan todo i tempu mama tititu anjadas da tisinya maigo jau na gimin dos basu ni amun para hapa no manai balium para apa no manai percocet isinya agimin dos basun amun nina katma nina maigo maulim nina rosus maigo nya para masaya un ratuha para estiman aku un ratu 15 minutos tiangku dasinya dumuskansa ilunya mampus megay na tempo ena 15 minutos para iman amko I matutupong istay manongko hours I ora aman maigo. Matutupong pud minuto sa. Wana ti man maigo ato la noche aman magvamos tutut bayo niya. Wahu ni masasapi ananaudio idoku bipolar dan idoku migraine. Wana 3 dias I maigo chuka o kanu I 10 mg na bayo chuka o kanu I 12.5 mg na ambient kia jujuratu waha na ajudatu logi siguiente dia ang mamata jo kalamon bulak jo da hangover malingwa I segundo dia Wes na sina tatlo tomorrow di na soku. Pes pumara na yun no, chuli edi amo di medico. Disti meritorao di goberno. Da ito apago amomoto I marijuana. Manana yo staba dosi na amo di medico. Pago giesa na amo utchuli. Edi gies ni staba manana yo una tinolaika ni marijuana. Sinya o prebas di next year de panuyam tu ni todo ni amo ni manana yo ni tiu chuchuli. Lo ni sita para mi chuli pahu para mi preba na o ni sisita. Lo mi gimi nagahi tiu ni sita. I marijuana ulisita. Masaya hapatay mano. Masaya hapatay mano. Lo esta atman I tempo ni manmalingo tanisita esti na amot ni. Hagasa esti na simida bini kita nota. Dahag sama mamamolin tau-tau. Bulan I tau-tau ta Tomorrow siya ni manhono manggera waha ni edi mapanyawak da malong manhono esti siya na tau-tau manhono da manawag bina Estados Unidos analigo I marijuana Washington State Arizona ekwa manu siya na lugar sesuma agan mo eton manununan Winnie, manggaiki Winnie, todi boys, da utsukas ki manggaya mun, pura marijuana. Apa jo besawan, gayo Winnie guam da tiligo. Leko ki abigu, kausinya wife ki alum ki tilupon, da be chop Winnie magi ki atu dengan tisinya. Wes kaya I paku gini na problema. Kimapus na mes, ako ninyo ilahiyo para din pan-reunion Ireland. Antes yung patu Ireland, David yung para Amsterdam. Amsterdam na lugar, lignya na ligo. Logi minagahit, edwa na ligo ang humalgaw di coffee shop daman order of. Kung nisita mo na setbiya, liha na lugar. Lo 8 días huwi, giminatres na aani, utungwa esta na parewa na siniga, parewa na tinanong manasisitni, wini na coffee shop, maagang purple haze, parewa na chupa, maagang binimogi, purple glaze. I-otro na tenda, parewa na marijuana, maagang otro na naan. Parewa dediki na problema, wini buwahan ang malum ilay daling nga Chesa na pharmacy, sinya man manali amo. baha minolenya itu, baha ti minolenya. Lo simizaha esti imarwan. Devi ti kanoi choksa. Tinanum ginnazus. Tanum dopandoku. Hanuma anisita. Ini kandit ini nazus. Kami kita ipamagonta manisitas. Di kontempo ani humalo imegay na salapi ni sine gobyerno mana sepi. Intingma apat mikiliko ani dulu man halo di daman dokul na hotel mamanai qualifying certificate puno panmanapasitas. Itu siya na kompanya na komprendi na masaya haka na dia jama matonum jama nagi honum jama tendi tenki dumangku damaulik kaltoro tagwia I duty free shoppers ane pago matuwam ane matuwam bulan salapi Pilipinas niya para I gobyerno. Lo baha do I Makatinas wina tempo I maalo tourist attraction fund. Leknya iti man aku wina tempo ane pago matutun esti na kumpanya. Gigon matutun makatsa esti na salapi un godpya malino. Bulan na salapi ini ni tax diduduki man malingwa esta tisinya sama katsa I tourist attraction fund sa esta tada. Hinayan talo no baha sa lapi tagwi ni sinya I gobyerno mabira siya batu para ma-assiste I tao itano. Lo pago esti na bio oportunidad para todo I pamagonta I manmalamo I ninalawaka maulik para kita todo masaya haputamano I gobyerno lenya kwanto nasa lapit manisita bula siya idea ni sita sinya tanah setri sin salapit. Next meeting besangonya hamzu ay manu sinya tatawis. Benayo idea right now. Then fit punada. Bulan tadunya I gobyerno pago. Sige hamzu mengentus per estigi malago ko penanum estigi malago ko penanum anisita 300,000 anisita 200,000. Bulan tanu gobyerno ang para I gobyerno lakmun ni estina na chaki kes dementea na kwanto na farmers kwanto na lancero I gobyerno anisita po patinas I amon ni para munisita. Sinya ma-regulate todo I manmananunum I un lugar in tanong gobyerno. Udhapa na yung katisinya esti growers siya manmanai startup money. Ang sinya manmanai esti isa manlipo startup money ginagato igida opan manhatsa guma manu ni opan manyara imando. Esta liniya Asya kwanto itu siya na manu na chada Pilipinas niya kiunahu wa lo manmanai certificate po mahaksa po panmanai tau ta chada lo may garantiya na alewa teki o na papasi para itada, niga, paulo, dana buka. I marijuana, kumikiligo, ani gobyerno for regulate, koni gas ni linya matungo, da irregulators upan listo. Unlugata no pan mananong todo, tano gobyerno, man masisti ni gobyerno, para hapasti idangkulun sa lapit. Mangaya todo itinanong di un lugar. Siya iman mananong man kumpara siya hafa maulim, hafa ti maulim. Siya iuna na totoo betno ni mo regulate matugi un lugar. Dati todo do i-guess na mga growers. Un lugar ta. Para apa wana o todo do gato i-isla. Lo nisita tatutuhun un idea ito. Kanto ni midon nisita esti midon. Tata ini kaitu midon. I midon tenki man matuk gini isa tau sa midon. Esti tanota wahan. Esti andekta na tanisita dahungan. Hafanay na tisinya na setbi esti na karabaw i marijuana sa ninayan dio para managidenti ana tutul man flores siga man flores ninayan na talatay etu na salapu gugun ta reguleta ni dinansi da debi itautaw siya umasenti na makumprendi ni gobyerno dan siya na unukuha siya. Unukuha, man-aajuda. Edya na siya man malabuhin. Otu klasi, bula problema. Lo, para edu siya iman malang ni taibini trabaho ni sisita. Esta é quanto center, quanto está tentando na ONU, antes de last hearing, pass the timeline, 90 days after that. Kuntunga adi winning grower, ang pumapatinas itinanong ni artificial light, manisita masaya, 4 pa 5 mes para ipinain na crop. Itinanong ni Sinida sa nido, gimina 4 mes, 3 mes, esta siya o necessity. Pagkamandok ko itropo, esta siya o patamon. Para ako ninanggato masa. Si Jesus masi, tekya man aalihan talo, amzun ni iman hono, por estiano, panmanaytay tilu, manilu, da umakomprendi ni eski man makwasta na tanisisita eski idawam. Pudhafa na isiya waha Ireland of the Pacific. Bula salapi da isalapi kiuhukuk ni nanya digon tatungo hapa tatsutumu diti itu si Deus masih.
Algo más, Mr. Suswico. Por favor, algo na
Inanu talo mapanyago ele actually lower agam issue 9 Hagat and a Tata verb. Puraju and Hindu of this. Naanu Idoko edisyo ASS Antonio Saras Suswito.
Jesus Nasi.
So you can call me as anytime.
Yeah, my name is Frankie Espinosa.
I gotta go, man. My roses are waiting in the front.
You're making me laugh. Anyway, just a brief
Meeting, man.
testimony.
I'll speak in Russian.
I'm in favor of this
Maybe
bill
that's it.
because right now my prostate cancer has spread to my bones. So right now I'm battling bone cancer and it's painful. It's painful. And quote unquote, the market is too expensive. And that's the only thing that can alleviate the pain because I try not to take as much medication because then it will affect my liver. So then, it's going to be a double jeopardy, my liver and my cancer. So I'm hoping that, the implementation would be sooner than, I'm in support of this because, like I said, quote unquote, the black market is too expensive. Thank you.
Okay, I do have about 4 pages here. I'm going to go ahead and call them your names. I do know that a lot of them have support and none checked off for the oral testimony, but for the record, I'll just note it for the record. There is that a Jalen Ogden? Woman go around, are you support speaking? Support. Thank you. There is also is there a Marian Ehart? Eber. You want to speak or just support? Okay, thank you. We also, I think that we'll be providing testimony. Sandy Dijapa? Would you like to speak or just here for support?
Here for support.
Thank you. There's a Joseph Harris? Support. Paul Wesley? Support.
I'm not be stolen from
Okay. Joseph Saban? Support. Del E. Alvarez? Support. Mayor Alvarez, I do apologize. I should have been mayor for the name. Ryan Anderson? Support. George Gray? Support. And then, is it Joaquin Gray Smart? Support?
Recreation.
He wants to support recreation. A Bertha M. Cruz, are you here for support? Or to speak? To support. Would you like to speak? She said she'll go ahead and speak last. Yeah. Okay, do I have a Jonathan that looks like a Menglonia? Support?
Support and
Sure, come on. Come on and take a seat. I also have Ruth Gursan. Are you here to support or speak about it? Just listen. Okay. P.K. Harmon.
Yes, I'm here to support medicinal and recreational.
Are you here to speak about it also, or okay, just to support? Thank you. And then I also have Franklin Mano. You're here to speak also, Franklin? Just support for right now. You may come up later after everybody else. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. That's a lot. And then I've got 2 more seats that we can talk about. Kim Orsini, are you here to present oral testimony? Leilani Pareto, are you here for? And John Ogden, are you here for support or testimony?
no testimony.
Just support. Thank you. Okay, Leilani, you're more than welcome to come. And then we'll have Andrea. You're the last one. You're more, I'll make you speak less. Again, just for the record, just speak here, say your name into the record, and then where are you from, and then go ahead and share your testimony. I'll go ahead and start. You can start with.
Hi, my name is Joaquin. I'm here as a private citizen in support of the bill. However, I apologize because I have not been attending some of the forums. I don't know it's been brought up and discussed. I've just been reading what's been available. I definitely applaud your efforts. Well, one of the issues that, I just want to touch on one particular, I do want to mention that I would like to get involved in the business side of things because I'm a small business owner myself. However, I'm here today to just kind of speak on the issue of having or allowing some of the patients to grow X amount of plants. Because, it's in the original bill's name as compassionate. So, therefore, that word alone, it means charitable, caring, sympathetic. And if we're really just going to focus on them going out and purchase and treat it like a pharmaceutical drug, I think we're kind of heading in the wrong direction. Foundationally, once again, it's in the name, and I think we should allow some of these patients. Luckily, I do not have any medical conditions that require the use of marijuana, but down the road, should I become ill and amongst the list of authorized use, it would be nice to not have to worry about, the pharmaceutical side of things and having to go line up and, just to grow X amount, maybe 5 or less, it just totally makes sense. It's a natural drug, and quite frankly, I can see the business and the politics behind it, where people want to, make money, but it's designed for the patient, and it's one of those type of drugs where they could literally grow in their backyard. And Guam's weather definitely allows all kinds of growing methods, be it indoor, outdoor, and I definitely would like to see that happen. Within the changes. So X amount of plants being able to be grown in their backyards would definitely allow that. Now we get into the issue of access by children, and quite honestly, I think most of those drugs that are in the little bottles that are prescribed are far more dangerous, and they have far more serious consequences. I'll admit that kind of sucks that I'm on here on record, but as maybe a teenager, young teenager, I didn't mess with marijuana, but I'll tell you, it was the kind of, I'm sure there's many children on that have, and it wasn't the kind of experience that, that led me down the wrong path or made me do crazy things or made me want to hurt myself or hurt others. Quite frankly, I was paranoid, and that's all it did, was it just kind of made me feel good, and made me feel paranoid, and made me want to just avoid trouble altogether. So, once again, I think this was brought up in, I read this somewhere, that it really goes back to the parents' responsibility, and to control that issue. So I think that's really the only major issue that should come about as far as allowing some of the patients to grow in the backyard. That's pretty much all I have for today. And I hope to provide some written testimony as I dig a little bit more deeper into the issues.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza, for your statement. I truly appreciate your honesty, and I think that I just want to ask you for the record, so your intent of supporting the efforts of introduction, again, of home cultivation is where you're leading to.
Sure. It should definitely be factored into the...
It was in the original intent of Bill 215, and that got deleted from the deliberations when we were on session floor. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that it wasn't the original intent of 215, but Bill 215 was introduced, but it got deleted on the floor. So I just want to make sure.
Okay, well, with the ball banging back in your court, hopefully it gets back on there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
sir.
very
I
much
truly
for your
appreciate it.
My name is Bertha Cruz, and someone who's taken 16 pills a day, going halfway around the world to the doctors, short boy to the Middle East and China. All you get are narcotics. And growing up, medical, marijuana is all you heard. And whatever the names are, you heard that. It's illegal. It's illegal. In high school, my girlfriend's grandparents grew it for medicine. I'm like, oh wow, isn't it illegal? No, they're growing it in the backyard. Okay. And so I've always been one who you only heard it recreationally, majority around society. And all I ever thought was, oh, you can't just touch that. It's illegal. Unless it's prescribed. But from seeing what it does immediately to someone who's in chronic pain, I suffer from fibromyalgia. But it's seeing, it's 24/7, pain is 24/7. Every waking moment I'm in pain. You just have to remember it, to live with it. It's officially diagnosed for 16 years now, going on 17. And I'm hoping that I can reduce it to not the gallon-sized bag I used to carry around and be laughed at. Bags just go everywhere. On top of that, you're a walking zombie. So I'm sure you've heard enough testimonies. And we've seen the effects of what cannabis can do. When I first heard it, the very first hearing back in the legislature, they were told, like, okay, why did they bring this bill up? The people voted for it, but why did the senators bring it out? Wanted to let it go all up in high and come down the crash hard. And it's been how long? Over a year and a half? It's almost like, okay, we're crashing, Bob. What is it, 19,000? After it came out and voted for it in support of it. Selling things recreational. But on the medicinal side of it, and as Mr. Miller mentioned, the compassion part of it. I think all senators, there's 15 of y'all here, are on island, right? Okay. Unless out of the 15 you don't have a family member or yourself that's suffering and have experience or need that medication. I don't know how else to convince you all. You both, I'm hearing and seeing that you both have been at these hearings coming out public. Where are the rest of the senators? I'm assuming maybe it's because of the committee issue or whatever it is that's got going on. But who cares if it's election year? I don't care because I know who's working and who isn't because I can stay at home now. But when I heard like 2 million or 5 million almost got, I didn't hear the whole gist of it. I'm going to read the whole gist of it. But when you look at those fees coming down, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm proud. That's okay. But when you hear that, and it's going to come down, a person on disability like me won't be able to afford the medicine that's needed. I may as well just continue the narcotics that they're giving me and be a zombie fight at home, not enjoy my family. I'm only 52, and I started officially at 36. So I'm asking you, I don't know how you don't get your way to move. What examples they need to see? Is it like the guy who's speaking tomorrow only could pick out some of them, but he had whatever I guess he's explaining, his bags of medicines. Do we have to bring it out in front of all the senators to look at? Being zombies. I know Big Pharma is going to hit. He's going to get hit hard. But when your own doctor, your own mom says, okay, we're taking it for 3 days and nothing's happening. I don't know, just stop. So I just go home, brace myself, take that up, I need someone to guide me, and just live like that until it wears off. Working on the cannabis, it's a split second and the nausea goes away. I can understand and see the cancer patient what is it, even if it's just a little edible. The nausea from a cancer patient So do you have to have cancer? What are the chronic illnesses? My illness is not in the original. I'm hoping it'll be in there. Maybe it's labeled as a chronic pain. You know, I'm not sure if that'll be considered, but every part of it, the director, whoever's going to be in charge of this thing, has to approve it. We have to bring all these things. You want our medical records? Do you want me to bring in 8 volumes for the military, 6 volumes for civilian doctors? Is someone really going to sit down and go through every patient's to get a card? We have to get politics out of it, and we have to listen to the people who are suffering. Because I'm sorry, Big Pharma, but I've given you my family's life savings all this time. I'm a walking toxic person. And when you go out and tell specialists from Tripler in California that they can give you that medical card, because I'm sorry, but I can't take this. I'm not going to take it as you're prescribed. What are they going to do? They just give it to you and you just walk on. I'll just take it. You get into so much pain, you end up in the hospital, just wait into your vitals, or your blood pressure going up or down and settle. Okay, they'll release you because there's no cure for what I have. I'm glad there's some cure for cancer. I'm sure I've heard that there's not too many. I mean, there's a bunch going on. I think they're starting more patients like this, and it's medication upon medication. And the minimum, I'll tell you at the very beginning, is 15 pills. And you got that to take. That you have to take in your walking zone. So I'm hoping that the approach is not all, how do we get, I'm sure you want to control, things, so things won't get out of hand. We have the verbiage for that. But one person testified having cancer, do we have to be waiting on them? Short of me moving, my family keeps saying, move back. What do you mean back? I moved back to Guam. This is my home. Why do I have to move back to Colorado? Just because it's free and it's all there. And I hope that when we consider the cost of these things, consider the person who's only on a fixed income, or retiree, or a single person is that they're getting very, and we don't get pay raises every year. And but we're going to need it. So I'm hoping to join them, group, short of moving off island again, just to live a good lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cruz. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate the testimony. It means a lot. I would just like to note for the record, as senators up here, we receive recommendations and comments every day, and even the majority leader, when he receives information, when we first had the first meeting, come in late, those suggestions were given to him and given to some of the other senators. We will receive every testimony that comes in, and that's why I said, so that we don't have a debate back and forth, I will take all the testimonies. We will take all the testimonies. We will go ahead and transcribe all the recordings, and then we will give it to the oversight chair. I did note for the record, so everybody here that's listening, that when the transcription is given to the oversight chair on health, I will continue and will work closely with the majority leader to ask the oversight chair to continue to facilitate this. And all your concerns will be put down. And like I said earlier, some may not agree, some may be that the cost is too high, the cost is too little, this should be done like this, cultivation should be put back in. All those recommendations, as said earlier, will be, everything will be transcribed and put in. It's hopefully, after all the transcription is done, that we can come up with a plan that would be best moving forward. Again, for medical cannabis. And until something else changes, the law, as all the people voted for that supported those efforts as a majority, which is 19,000 plus people, was for the use of medicinal cannabis. I again will state for the record, there is a move from a group, a women's group that wants to look at other therapeutic use for cannabis, but until that goes through its process, it is an idea that's being broached in the community and being talked about in as far as Guam here. But our job is to take the rules and regs and follow the process. The time is ticking. It's 90 days, and that time expiration for those rules and regs, as provided to the legislature, does not expire until August 10th, because there's 3 holidays in between June, July, and August. So that doesn't, the rules and regs will lapse, and if nothing is done, will lapse until August 10th. Okay? So do you want to further on that comment, Senator Respicio?
I'm sure there are amendments going to be made after, but we have to wait for a 6-month period to add additional, or to bring that up again, another 6 months, or then another 6 months, wait for another illness to be added onto the list that
No.
wasn't there originally. I mean, it lapses into law. So I'm saying
Right.
there's a lot of work, and I know there's a time crunch.
Yes, and there's still
Yes, please note that there's a lot of people just in this room alone. They're here to show support, and I'm really happy for it. I wish the 19,000 could come out, or however the southern area of Guam, whoever wrote it, let me show up here and fill this place up. I'm putting myself out there just speaking like this publicly, but, you know, I'll take you this further.
I just want to say thank you very much for your presentation. It truly means a lot for the community. Thank you. No? Okay.
Before you dismiss the panel, I want to make sure that I also thank you, ma'am, and the rest of you for your participation in this examining the rules and regs to provide for medical cannabis here for the island. You know, I'm listening also, and I went to the first meeting, and when the discussion came up about just how much money this potentially could yield, that's where I started to have a discussion about the $30,000 amount and why was there an effort to want to reduce that amount as opposed to increasing it. Because we only have one shot to make this right, and I think we all agree that this is about patient safety. This is why the public health director keeps talking about the need for the equipment to test the THC level and the quality of cannabis that's being provided to patients. But also it has to do with pharmaceutical grade, and that's what the rules and regs provide. You know, so at that hearing, if you look at the rules and regs, it talks about the warehouse, it talks about the camera system, it talks about everything that needs to be done, that's done in the States with respect to safety and security and testing. And so, unfortunately, what's before us is not home cultivation. So we have to deal with what's before us. And I think there also needs to be a public education campaign within members of our community to let them understand that it's not just about a farmer digging a hole, putting a seed, and then having all this marijuana available for anybody who needs it. We have to deal with what's before us, and what's before us doesn't provide what Ernie Wistic was asking for the first hearing that we had. So I came late to the second hearing because I was at a graduation, but I'm very grateful that I had a great conversation with Andrea and her group, and I explained why I came up with that amount, and I explained, you know, even in her own numbers, potentially the illicit market could generate as much as $52 million. So if you take 10% of that, that's $5.2 million. That's where the $5 million came out. So what I was saying is we have an opportunity as taxpayers to figure out what that magic number is with respect to what the cost of the license is going to be. But ultimately, we want to make sure that whatever we do, it's sustainable. So, you know, I wasn't tied to that idea. And what that did was it brought more people out the following hearing to say that was a bad idea. And what it further did, it brought you out to this hearing and others to ask me really what was I thinking with respect to throwing that issue out. But in the course of looking at whether what other jurisdictions do, and we have a huge opportunity to not make those mistakes. So in other jurisdictions, they require local preference, so it's not just a resident of Guam, so it's at 51% ownership. Those are the things I'm looking at. Hawaii was very aggressive to make sure that whoever is a water license, they have to have 51% local ownership. So it's not just a U.S. citizen, right? So, and then the second thing was vertical integration. In many jurisdictions, they didn't allow for vertical integration where the grower and the dispensary were not one and the same. So you create a lot of problems with the illicit market and having supply issues and having to track those strains. If you look through the rules and regs, I think public health did a good job with respect to what needed to be done, but we all are in agreement that through Senator Barnes' efforts and all the feedback, more needs to be done to these particular rules and regs. And so those are the kind of conversations I'm happy to have. If you look at the rules and regs, it requires tracking of where the strain came from, how the strain was developed. It's regulated like a pharmacy is regulated, and that's the rules and regs that are before us. And the third thing is, and I don't want to know what that magic number is, but other jurisdictions require a performance bond or liquidity. If the cost to put this is going to cost X amount of dollar, you have to show an X amount in your bank account to make sure that this thing is sustainable. And someone said, Andre also said, does the government require this of private businesses? And it's true that the government requires this of every contract that you have with the government. If you're going to go bid for a construction project, you have to have bonding, you have to have a performance bond, you have to meet all these requirements, right? So when I threw that number out, it's not because this is for big business to come to Guam. If we want to build a school today, you're going to have to meet all these requirements of law. So we have several opportunities to keep talking about the rules and regs before us and identify any opportunity we have through Senator Barnes' leadership to have these rules and regs evolve to reflect what we really have to do in this area. So I just wanted you to know that. I didn't throw the $2 million number out to torpedo the whole medical marijuana thing. I also said that whether the license is $2 million or $30,000, the cost for that product is going to be the same amount of money because that company is not going to make the product so high that you cannot afford it. So those are the things that I was throwing out. And then the counter argument on the radio was, I'm doing this at the expense of cancer patients. Along with Senator Barnes, no one is more committed to seeing this through. I introduced the bill in 2010 before it was even popular. So we're coming from the same place, right? So we want the same thing, and we're going to work together so we can achieve what we all want together. I'm with you. And the whole idea of it being the Compassionate Care Act, I named mine the Compassionate Care Act of 2010.
Bill 420.
Then it evolved to Bill 423 because someone in my staff thought it was a good idea to create education with what we're trying to do. The next bill number available was Bill 420, so they introduced the bill. And I had the doctors upset because if you're really going to do this under the guise of medical marijuana, don't associate it to recreational use. And so, we learned. I learned a lot. And so I'm still learning, but those are the three areas I believe that we have to spend some time on and figure out what those magic numbers are. I hope I'm satisfied
Yes,
here.
well, no, I was just picking at you as well.
That's fine. You know what? I'm okay. If I sit in a chair that's cold, I'm not used to it. I'm used to sitting in the hot seat. So pick away. Pick away, but I want you to know where I'm
when you
coming
deliver
from.
and go out and speak out and you're senator as well, another thing that just came to me was the testing of the lab work. That's very important. So I'm not sure. There's rules and regs there. You all as lawmakers can go in and make adjustments to this. Hopefully it can be
And then also in the rules and regs with respect to edibles, it says it's up to the dispensary to test their products. I didn't even take a look at that because, I read marked everything and I'm working closely with my good friend here and I'll just throw out what I think needs to be addressed and just know where I'm coming from. So if I say something you don't agree with, just please let's continue to talk
Sure, Mr. Lawyer.
Yeah, with my testimony earlier, with what Senator Speaker just mentioned, I just want to clarify that I'm not trying to take away from the pharmaceutical side, but I'm just hoping that there's still room and time in there to squeeze in the ability for patients to incorporate in conjunction with the pharmaceutical side to be able to grow up to X amount of plants, and just like in most places that it is legalized for medical use. That's what I was actually getting at, not to just exclusively do home cultivation.
Have a day for the record. Have a day for the record. My name is Leilani Carrillo. I'm a senior at the University of Guam and Secretary of the Guam. In 2005, I was prescribed antidepressants for law. Zoloft left me emotionally numb, and against my physician's directions, I discontinued use. I'm glad I made this choice. I watch my peers around me becoming locked up in pharmaceutical prisons. So I'm here to speak on behalf of those who are silently suffering. The other day, Mr. Sislico reminded me that people tend to be more sympathetic to illnesses that they're able to see. But veterans are not the only people that experience post-traumatic stress syndrome. Victims of rape and physical assault also suffer from increased anxiety, sleeplessness, and panic attacks. For those suffering from social anxiety, OCD, Tourette, uncontrollable spasms, insomnia, or intractable and chronic pain, cannabis offers relief and an opportunity for normalcy in a sometimes unbearable world. Cannabis has also been shown to reduce dependency on other medications, such as drug-based opioids. Our people are suffering silently, self-medicating, and hiding in the shadows for fear of judgment and repercussion. Cannabis can be consumed in a variety of ways, as she was saying. Edibles for those who wish not to smoke, and inhalation for those who have such severe nausea that they're unable to eat or take medicine. Topical applications, oils, and paintings. It's often been said that the cure for anything is a big laugh and a long sleep, and cannabis can assist with that. Medical research regarding cannabis continues to develop in light of the recent legislative changes in certain states. To place a limit on qualifying conditions would be to place a limit on the care and wellness that cannabis would bring to the people of the island, not to mention minimize the number of patients, and further jeopardize the sustainability of this much-needed program.
Now we can begin.
As we stand on the threshold of the future of healthcare in Guam, I hope that we choose to stand on the right side of history. I hope that we do not deter from nor ignore the very same compassion that led the people of Guam to pass this bill. We should leave it up to the physicians, not the lawmakers, to determine what conditions qualify one for use of cannabis. That is their area of expertise. It would be most unfortunate for Guam to make a giant stride in progress only to end it with conceivable benefits with unnecessary legislation and regulation. From an economic standpoint, lower licensing fees would encourage a competitive market. To accept the policies and regulations of the state of Arizona as appropriate for Guam doesn't make sense. To Arizona ST. This is Guam. I implore you to reconsider the policies regarding qualifying conditions and to take the extra time, care, and precaution in ensuring that these policies reflect the best interests of the people that you represent, the people that voted for this bill to be passed. Senators, thank you for having us here and taking the time.
I really appreciate you being here tonight to share your testimony and to share with the audience. It's not very often, like I said earlier, that it's easy to come to these hearings and hear what others have to say, but more importantly, to share your story, to share your testimony, and be brave enough to share it with the rest of the community. And I just want to say thank you for your brave hope. And I understand that you all too are also part of Women Grow Guam now. Thank you very much. With that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Andrea Delacani.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Oh, it's loud, I'm loud.
Let's trick mics. Let's see what the trick mics. You want to turn that off? Yeah. Turn that on.
Check two. Okay, this one's better. For the record, I'm going to go ahead and go on the record to say that we are looking into a tax and regulate bill. Of interest to me is the MCLR, which is a bill written by Ed Rosenthal. And if we submit this as a voter initiative, we just want to make sure that it's thorough. And so we understand that tax and regulate, yes, decriminalization. Yeah, and so we understand that if we do submit something, that the legislature will not be able to amend it. And so we want to make sure, for how many years, Senator? Two. And so we want to make sure that it's very, very thorough, and so we are looking at multiple options right now.
Thank you. I truly appreciate that.
Again, for the record, my name is Andrea C. Pellicani, and I am the president of Women Grow Guam, founding member of Grassroots Guam. Kimberly Orsini, she wasn't able to make it. She's our vice president and treasurer, and Lonnie here, who you just met, is our secretary. Thank you for having us here in Santa Rita, Senator Barnes, Senator Respicio, Mayor Alvarez, and the wonderful residents of Santa Rita. I love this village. Our review of the final draft rules and regulations is almost complete. However, we have found that some of the major fundamental problems with the program rules stem from the statute. And, we understand that public health was limited to what the statute allowed them to do. And so the changes that we'll be recommending at the next hearing will be dependent on how amendments can be made to the Joaquin Casey Concepcion, the second Compassionate Cannabis Use Act of 2013. While we are not attorneys at Women Grow, and we do not carry the depth of knowledge of Guam Code Annotated, we have worked on this for 2 years, and in the process of gaining extensive knowledge on the cannabis industry. So today we're going to outline, this is a bit of a technical testimony, so I hope everybody's not going to fall asleep on me. It's actually kind of nerdy and interesting. But we have also proposed draft language that has not been reviewed by a local attorney, but it has been reviewed by a cannabis industry attorney and a cannabis industry consultant. And while we understand that these are major requests, we understand that we're sitting here saying we need to make amendments to the statute. We would be remiss if we didn't bring it to the table. So please understand that the will of the people has not, we feel to this day, has not been heard. And that we've lost some faith in the ability of the Department of Public Health and the administration to put in a full effort into carrying out the law as we voted on. They failed us in putting these rules together, and we don't have the confidence that they can execute it. This is not acceptable to us. We hear a lot of the frustration of the patients and the people that are coming out, and I haven't heard one person to come in and say, we're happy, because nobody is. And, we're just frustrated at the stage that after over a full year of work on these rules, that we are still nowhere close to putting together a good foundation for this program. There are people who are sick, and they've come here to testify, and some stay at home, and they are dying. And Senator Barnes and Senator Respicio, thank you again for our wonderful, productive conversation. And Amy Yamashita, really, that's 2 women again, have had the courage to stand in front of this because this is what we wanted, because you're listening to your constituency. This law is supposed to be compassionate. There is no courage in shutting out the patients, and quite frankly, we've been insulted at the lack of response and effort put forth to execute the will of this island. While we understand that there are many important matters to be taken care of, a law enacted by the people should have been at the top of this list, but it was not. And it's not only disappointing, but it gives way to losing faith in the sanctity of the voice of the people. So we come here to every hearing to speak on behalf of the many who can't be here. We've been patient for elected officials and appointed regulators in order to get the program right. But we are also letting it be known that we aren't happy, and we are going to be more vocal about our right to be heard. We've heard Mr. Gillen on the radio many times, somewhat cavalier, sometimes patronizing, and making excuses for the job he's done thus far. But we're not going to stand down any longer. While we respect the hard work that was put in and commend our friends at the Division of Environmental Health for taking on this additional task, we think that some have forgotten that they are here to serve the people of Guam, and we humbly ask the committee to give our request the full attention and consideration it deserves. If these rules lapse into law, we will know that you also have refused to hear our concerns. And the only ones that are going to suffer for it are the patients and the 19,000 plus people who spoke on behalf of our entire island. And we're not going to go away quietly. So thank you again for having us here. I'm going to proceed with the technical portion of the testimony. And Alan, Senator, might need a copy of the KC statute. I don't know if you have a copy of it. Do you want one of these to the senators? Okay, we're going to start with section 122.403 under definitions. Letter C is debilitating medical condition. As it currently stands, there are only 3,000 plus patients eligible for this program. It is our recommendation that we strike through condition number 10 and replace it with the following language. Any other medical condition, medical treatment, or disease for which the patient's physician has determined that the use of medical cannabis or medical marijuana may provide relief. Given the emerging and emergent nature of discovery, practitioners should be able to recommend treatment based on the needs of their patients and not, in other words, to bypass the bureaucracy. Doctors would have all the latest relevant information provided to them. Again, they should be the ones to be able to recommend. Another framing that was recommended to us, Senator, is possibly, and I haven't looked into this enough, it's kind of a new thought. If someone is prescribed a Schedule II drug, that a patient may request for an alternative medicine, which would be to ask for a recommendation for cannabis, which would truly be an alternate, which is what everybody's looking for. So that's another framing for the committee to think about it. I don't have any language or anything to support that, but that's something to consider. I think that would make a lot of patients happy.
So noted.
Thank you. Also, the department. Based on the handling and the promulgation of these rules, we propose that a new commission be established under the Office of the Attorney General's Consumer Affairs Division called the Guam Medical Cannabis Control Division. DPHSS and this administration have made it clear that they have no intention to hear the people and thus should be moved to a body that can handle legal and regulatory issues outside of the Division of Environmental Health. While DPHSS has been concerned about enforcement, funding, and tracking, little to no attention has been paid to patients' rights and safe patient access, the cornerstones of this industry. Patients and cannabis businesses need to not only be accountable for following the law, but also to have oversight with expertise that has the mindset that patients and cannabis businesses also need to be protected under the law and not treated as potential criminals. We recommend to replace the current definition with the following, and any subsequent mentions of the department should be struck through to show this change. Division means the Medical Cannabis Control Division established under this act under the Office of the Attorney General under the Consumer Affairs Division. And the reason why we suggest or recommend this is to protect patients and businesses. Letter F, licensed producer. This law does not cover protections for manufacturers or any other ancillary businesses that may handle or test cannabis, including but not limited to labs, manufacturers, packaging companies, couriers, caregiving services, etc. So we recommend that the following change the language, which will not have to be changed in section 122.404, the exemption section, exemption from criminal and civil penalties for the medical use of cannabis. We suggest to word it, licensed business means any person or association of persons within Guam that the division determines to be qualified to produce, possess, manufacture, distribute, possess, I think this was a mistake, and dispense cannabis pursuant to this act, and that is licensed by the division. I think that was a little bit of a typo. Yeah. So in other words, it needs to include anybody that's going to possess cannabis, which could be any courier services. Right, there's a lot of ancillary businesses that may come up because of it. And so I think we need to broaden the definition of a licensed producer. Section 122.404, exemption from criminal and civil penalties for the medical use of cannabis. A qualified patient who fails to register and receive a registry card may only raise an affirmative defense. So requiring a patient to fill out a form of intent to consume cannabis incriminates patients and is a violation of their Fifth Amendment rights, and they should not be required to do so. It should be optional. While many states have registry programs accepting that people should incriminate themselves and participating in a program knowingly violating federal guidelines should never be okay. And we will fight any violation of our Fifth Amendment right until we can stop fighting. But that should never be sacrificed. When I fill out an application to become a business or to become a patient, I'm basically saying that I am growing, distributing an illicit drug. I'm consuming an illicit drug under federal guidelines, and so by doing so and filling out these applications and requiring everyone to do so, well, businesses should have to do it to get a license. We understand that patients should not have to, and it should be optional. A physician certification should qualify them for the program, and they should be protected equally with the physician's recommendation. As any other patient, whether you have a registry card or not, you should be protected. So we recommend the following edit to this section, which is a qualified patient who fails to register and receive a registry identification card from the division, but who nevertheless has received a written certification from their physician for the medical use of cannabis, may not be subject to arrest or prosecution. So as long as you have your physician certification, you will be equally protected under the law. Advisory board created duties. The advisory board on the KC statute, I understand that the duties and limitations were really just to make recommendations for conditions to add to the list, which, obviously we want to broaden that as well. We recommend the following wholesale changes to the advisory board. All of this is just suggestions. What we did was we merged the positions that we thought need to be on a cannabis advisory board and included that with the ones on the statute. So we have here representative from the Department of Public Health and Social Services, as well as Department of Agriculture, the Guam Environmental Protection Agency, the Guam Police Department, Guam Fire Department, and then your practitioner. So this language is straight out of the KC statute. What's missing on this board is the most important, which is a patient advocate, representative of the Chamber of Commerce, the legislative chairperson for the committee on health and designee and the governor's appointee. So you see, we just added a few representatives because we don't think that they were, I think that's why part of the reason of the rules are not well-rounded is because we're missing some information and we're missing some people. So quorum, of course, for 14 would be 8. Now we also added some responsibilities other than just reviewing conditions. Basically, they would be there to review the program annually. Say, oh, okay, we're finding that petty crime is up. So let's address that. So while police department can sit on this board and say, these are our concerns and this is what's happening in the community with cannabis. The EPA says, okay, you know what, wastewater has become an issue for us. And so basically we would have these people come together annually to see what changes can be made to the program. Once again, we don't think that the community is represented in these rules. And then determine additional duties and responsibilities. And I know I sit here and I say, let's take the bureaucracy out of it, and then I do this, right? So it's kind of a contradiction, but just so you also understand, Senator, where we're coming from is really to build the foundation of something that's sustainable. And we're not opposed to regulations. We're just opposed to regulations that aren't necessary. Okay, so 122407, the department rules and the registry identification cards, if we could make that to the division instead. Based on the estimates to set up a new program, we recommend that the sum of $250,000 be allotted from the Healthy Futures Fund. Currently, I believe it's at $100,000. We also recommend that tax revenue collected pay for the cost as opposed to licensing fees. So if 4% of the GRT being collected from the businesses is going into the general fund, why can't this tax money be used to fund the program instead of the licensing fees and the patient cards? Once again, the people voted on this, so the people, I'm sure, should be okay to have the tax money collected from the cannabis businesses to pay for the program. And so if we can get a better economic study done to figure out what that tax revenue may be, we may have a better idea of how much more money will be needed in licensing fees instead of just throwing out a $30,000, $15,000 permit inspection fee. We don't think that really the due diligence was done to hear the concerns that we brought out about the $35,000. Every single person that came to testify was opposed to the fees. And still, so we dropped it only $5,000. But what about the tax revenue? Can't we estimate that and allot that and designate that specifically to handle this program? So yeah, so we recommend that we request that a new economic impact statement be done because we don't feel that the initial one is thorough. So we also provided the following draft language. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, the sum of $250,000 from the Healthy Futures Fund codified at 11 G Guapo annotated section 26603 is hereby appropriated to assist the division to timely execute its mandate under section 122407A. Wow, I don't even know where I got this. To promulgate rules to implement the purpose of this act. All application and licensing fees and fines required in this act shall be paid to the division. The division will transfer excess funds beyond what is needed for execution, management, and enforcement of this act to the Healthy Futures Fund. In other words, if they collect more tax money than they needed or they ask for, then that goes back into the Healthy Futures Fund. And then we also recommend that the word shall be replaced with the word may. So they, regarding the registry cards, again, being optional, may would be a better word to use. So under Section 2 of the KC statute, this section does not allow for the use or sale of marijuana or cannabis paraphernalia or accessories, and currently will not protect any caregiving service, counseling service, instruction, or sale or the use of marijuana or cannabis paraphernalia. So we recommend to amend the language as follows. The enumeration of marijuana, tetrahydrocannabinol, chemical derivatives of these as Schedule I controlled substances, or the possession, use, or distribution of marijuana paraphernalia does not apply to the medical use of cannabis pursuant to the Joaquin Casey Concepcion, the Second Compassionate Use Act of 2013. The purpose of this, Senator, is that because currently I don't know in one code, and you may need to find out from the legal department, the verbiage used to make drug paraphernalia illegal. What happens is if a caregiver brings a vape, to a patient, neither of them are protected from. Once they say put the marijuana in the chamber, they're again committing a local crime. So I think we need to revisit that as there are no protections in this law for that. And also for dispensaries, if you want to offer a caregiving service within your dispensary and your patient says, well, how do I use that? What do I do with this? They wouldn't be allowed to sell or educate patients on how to use accessories. So thank you again. I know that was a little bit nerdy.
I just want to say, Andrea, we truly appreciate the presentation again tonight. Thank you for the research, but more importantly, I know that this presentation was done by Grassroots Guam and Women Guam, and submitted here tonight with you, Kimberly and Leilani, being part of that organization. We want to take the time from the legislature to say thank you. You've been present at all the public hearings. You've continued to work on this very closely, but more importantly, you've been able to bring a lot of information and recommendations that could help us facilitate the rules and regs moving forward. And I'd like to say, at least on behalf of myself and my colleague, Senator Bishop, thank you, because it is a lot of work.
I understand. I know that was like 10 minutes or something, but I know you know that was a lot.
Yes, and with the previous presentations, we do know that you are also looking at the merits of the rules and regs as presented to our August body. And we ourselves in the committee realize the work that needed to be done. The recommendations that have been submitted to us are a lot of recommendations that our office staff and our colleagues have shared with us, from labs to having the labs, to making sure the testing is there, to home cultivation again, why was it deleted, to taxation, to dispensing, to cultivating, to just all those general topics that continue to come up at every public hearing, but more importantly, the recommended changes that you as a group have come, as a nonprofit group, coming in and saying, these are the changes that we'd like to hear. Thank you for making it easier for the committee to present to the Oversight Chair on Health, and based on that, I do know that it just makes it easier for us to carry through. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have one more hearing, and as committed to this August body, it was recommended by the Oversight Chair on Health to have 3 meetings, one in the north, one in the central, and one in the south. We did decide as a committee, and with the support of my colleagues, that we will have one more, and that meeting will be at the legislature. Department of Public Health said they will be there at that. I do know that I again will entertain any more recommendations to the rules and regs, any more suggestions. If there's any testimony in opposition, I will accept those also. I'm going to ask the body not debate. If there's things that need to be clarified, and I feel that clarification is needed, I will go ahead and accept that. I think the important thing is how do we move on from here? And we have a lot of information that we need to include. And as I said earlier, I'm not afraid to ask the Oversight Chair to continue to facilitate this. I've shared it with the Oversight Chair on rules to see if he can share his thoughts with the Oversight Chair on Health to make sure that I continue to facilitate this. It's our committee effort. We are part of the Committee on Health, and I'm pretty sure that Senator Rodriguez will continue to work closely with us on that.
His timeline again to us was June 12th. We plan to beat that timeline of June 12th. Again, the committee doesn't have to do anything, but I will step up to the plate to make sure that a lot of the recommendations for here be added. If it's the best opportunity for us to separate the bills out and work in different sections of the rules and regs to introduce new legislation to make it go a bit faster, we will do that. If we needed to add it to the rules and regs to expedite it more and make sure that all the questions and make sure that we have the magic number of 8 at least to facilitate this more. There could be other various ways that this could be done, but I'm looking at facilitating it through before the budget hearing. And I know that's a very tall order, but I will continue to work closely with my colleagues. Senator Mitsubishi, any closing remarks? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to thank all of you guys for coming. A lot of you have been here also at the last 2 previous public hearings, and here at the third. I want to say, please continue. I urge you to ask your friends, your co-workers, your family to come and not be afraid to share. We're not going to debate anybody. We are going to accept everybody's testimony, whether they support it, oppose it, whether they want to share their thoughts, their concerns. We will take everything in. And we will have a full report as transmitted to committee. I will ask the Oversight Chair on Health to give a full recording of our transcription to all those who are present. So if you'd like to sign up, I also ask that you sign up with your email and your number so that we can send you information. Please don't hesitate to check our office. Again, our office numbers are 472-3455 or 56. If you don't want to do it today, you can always call my office and ask for Jean, Alan, Natalie, and my chief of staff is Millie. You're more than welcome to do that. You can also email us at 472-3400. I know some of you still don't have some smart telephones and like to do it the old-fashioned way. And senator@gmail.com if you'd like to send it also via email. So again, thank you, and to the MPC members and to the staff and management of Mayor Del Alvarez's office and Buffalo Lucitos Mas for giving us the time and the place to meet in the Southern District. Thank you all for being here. We will call this meeting tonight recessed at 7:42. Sign them off.